What's going on, guys? In today's video, I'm going to be reacting to Dr. Cellini talking about why he quit his corporate job and became a doctor. At the Pre-Med Consultants, we have a lot of students that are non-traditional career changers, and so we see this quite often, actually. And I think a lot of students are afraid to make the leap and feel like they might be too old to go to medical school and become a doctor, or that they're not going to be able to go back and study and they don't remember how to do school. But that's just not the case at all. You could absolutely do it if this is something that you've dreamt about. So I'm curious to hear of what Dr. Cellini has to say on this topic and why he ended up leaving his corporate job to become a doctor.
Welcome back to the channel, everybody. For those of you who are new around here, my name is Michael, aka Dr. Cellini. I'm a radiologist subspecializing in interventional radiology in New York City. Now, many of you all may remember from prior videos that I wasn't always in the medical field. It was later on in my life when I decided to go into medical school. For those of you who don't know, I was actually in the corporate world for a short period of time before I made that decision. So I decided it may be a good idea to make a video detailing why exactly I left corporate America for a career in medicine to become a doctor. Hopefully you'll enjoy this video. It's a little different, so let's go ahead and get into it. Let's go. So let's go ahead and get into why I left my corporate job to become a doctor. It's quite a journey. It's been over 10 years now, and hopefully it may be able to help some of you all out that are in the same shoes I once was 10 years prior. So in this video, we're going to detail exactly how I ended up in corporate America. We're going to talk about when I realized the corporate world was not for me. We're going to talk about why I hated the corporate world. We're going to talk about when I decided to leave the corporate world. Next, we'll talk about why medicine was the right career decision for me. And then I may make a weird comparison at the end, so you'll have to stay tuned till then to see what I'm talking about. So let's first
just a side note before we get into the video, I love his monitor. I love that long screen curving monitor. I actually have one myself, although I'm on vacation right now, so I don't have it with me. And that's a nice looking bar cart you got back there as well.
This video started with how I ended up in the corporate world to begin with. As a freshman at the University of Georgia, I was also an athlete. I was a swimmer on scholarship there, focusing almost 100% of my time on athletics. During my time as an athlete, I didn't really have much additional free time to consider what kind of jobs I was actually interested in. I was more so just focused all of my attention and time on swimming. So what happens when you don't know what you're going to do with your life or have any idea or any direction what you're going to do in your life at the ripe old age of 18 years old? Well, you just kind of go with the rest of the people and take whatever major your advisor gives you or thinks you'd be interested in.
Yeah, this is a good point. A lot of students in general, whether you know you're pre-med going into it or you have absolutely no clue what you want to do, just feel like they need to choose a major for a variety of reasons, but maybe it's just that their advisor told them to do this. They are good at math, so they think they should be a math major. What I recommend to you, whether you're pre-med or just a student in general, college is a great time to explore your interests. So try to choose a major that is actually something you're interested in, even if you don't have that much experience in it. So for example, maybe you're interested in business and learning more about that, but you don't have much experience in it. Well, you can actually get a business major and still be a pre-med student. You can do music and be a pre-med student. Or if you don't want to be a doctor at all, you can go into any of these majors and then you may end up in a career that has nothing to do with it. That happens all the time. But that's why college is such a great chance to explore something you might be interested in and take lots of different classes even outside of your major to figure it out. So then you'll know hopefully a little bit better if you want to pursue being a physician, a nurse, a PA. Maybe you want to go into consulting. Maybe you want to be a teacher. Who knows? But that's a great time to explore, take lots of classes, and see where you are interested.
So for me, that happened to be economics, which I didn't know a darn thing about economics when I first started that major, but I knew there were a lot of people in the corporate world who made some good money, and I was surrounded by a lot of real estate folks growing up in my town in Georgia. How bad could it be, right? So I ended up graduating college with a degree in economics, which wasn't really useful because I didn't really know what to do with it. So I actually got pretty fortunate when I finished college. I had one of my prior friends who graduated before me offer me a job to work for a property management / commercial real estate firm in Georgia. So I got this job and I found out pretty quickly that it wasn't going to be the right job for me. Once I found that out, I did what anybody interested in real estate would do. I got my residential real estate license because I didn't know what else to do, and I thought at least I could expand my knowledge and expand my horizons by doing so, and maybe even do some real estate on the side of the property management gig. So now let's talk about why I hated the corporate world to begin with. So for one, I hated driving 45 minutes in traffic to the office every single day of my life. I felt like I was wasting so much time in the car, and I actually calculated how much time I was wasting one time, and it ended up being almost 1 month time spent every year being in the car, commuting to and from work, which is
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think that commuting long distances to work, whether that's in the corporate world or within medicine, maybe some attendings that I know even residents are traveling pretty far to get to work, and commuting is definitely a pain. I'm definitely going to try in residency to live as close to the hospital as possible because there's just so much wasted time that goes into commuting, especially if you have to drive. It's hard to do other things. And so I don't think this is very much or necessarily unique to the corporate world. I live in New York City and I have a ton of friends that are in the corporate world. And because they're in New York City, they're usually a quick walk or subway down to the office. But commuting is a pain. So if you could avoid it, I recommend getting those minutes back in your life because it definitely adds up over time, as you could clearly see.
is such a waste of time, I can't even describe it. I also didn't like performing useless, monotonous tasks day in and day out just to benefit some large corporation. I had no incentive to work harder. I also felt like my brain was just kind of turning into a mashed potato because I wasn't really using it. My job was pretty easy. I wasn't challenged throughout the day, and after about 2 months, I had my job nailed down 100%, and there was no real room to move up or be challenged or anything like that. My job essentially never afforded me the ability to think critically or be creative or anything of that nature. And I actually figured out one day I went out to eat for lunch and I was calculating a 20% tip on the bill, and I had trouble calculating the 20% tip, which is the easiest math in the world. And at that moment I was like, oh my gosh, I need to do something else in my life because I feel like I'm turning into like a brain dead 23-year-old. Or however old I was like 21 or something, 22. So now let's talk about when I realized.
My trip for the tip is I usually always double the tax and round up. And since the tax in New York is like 8.6% or something, I think it usually gets you to like 18%, maybe a little bit more. No, yeah, it's about 18% when I do that trick. But also, they also now put the recommended tips like 18, 20, 22 on the bills these days. So make sure to tip well.
Realized I wanted to leave the corporate world, and that didn't take long. It probably took about maybe 3 months, I'd imagine. So it took me a good first 2 months to kind of get accustomed to how things went, learn my day-to-day routine, learn the people, what was expected of me, all that stuff. I pretty much knew how to do everything, and that was pretty much it. It was the exact same thing day in and day out without any challenge whatsoever. So when did I decide to leave the corporate world exactly? Well, that was about 1.5 years after I got my job at the property management / commercial real estate firm to begin with. Luckily, at that time, I had already been researching going back to school to do my prerequisites for medical school, and I actually already applied, paid my tuition and all that stuff to go ahead and start that coming summer as my first summer semester of those prerequisite courses. And I intended to plan on working during at least the summer portion and go full-time starting in the fall semester of that year. Fortunately,
So it sounds like he had the first job and definitely hated it, and then somehow got introduced into medicine, and it looks like what he was going to do was a post-bac program. So there's a couple different ways to do a post-bac program, which basically means you've already graduated from university, you have a degree, but now you're going to go back and take post-bachelorette classes, so after you've graduated, so that you can get your pre-med prereqs in. Now you could do this as at a formal post-bac program, which are programs set up for these types of students, or you can do it yourself and actually just at a local community college or university, you can take those classes. It's definitely easier to do that now with a lot of online credits being accepted, although it depends on the medical school. But yeah, that sounds like what the plan was in this case. I would say that I know a lot of people that hate one corporate job and then move to another and enjoy it better, and the pay is good. So it sounds like you knew that the corporate world was just not for you, and also were interested in medicine. But if you're stuck in a job and you don't like it, there's a lot of opportunity out there right now. So I think it's good to always just be applying and tasting new things and trying out different fields. When you decide to go into medicine, it's hard to really break out of that. And so you're going in for, especially if you're going to go back and take the prereqs, it's usually going to take about 2 years. And then the application cycle is a full year. So it's a lot of time, and it's hard once you make that decision to then be trying out other jobs. So if you are not sure and you're unhappy with your job, I definitely recommend getting some shadowing experience, getting clinical experience, making sure that this is definitely what you want to do before deciding to sign up for a post-bac and potentially pay a ton in tuition. And getting that shadowing experience, that's one of the reasons it's so important for applying to medical school. And potentially before doing that, you could also try out other jobs and see if there's something else you might be interested in. But if you know that medicine's for you, it's an awesome career, and I highly recommend then jumping into a post-bac program to get you on the path of getting into medical school and becoming a doctor.
Unfortunately, those plans changed pretty quickly because about this time, about 1.5 years after working there, they approached me and wanted me to move offices. So why ultimately was medicine the right career path for me?
Before he gets into that, I just want to comment on trying to work while you're doing a post-bac program. It's definitely possible for some people, but what I see a lot of times is students end up sacrificing their grades because they're trying to work a full-time job or even a part-time job when trying to get back into learning how to do well in classes. And really, if your goal is to go to medical school, the most important thing that you can do is do well in those classes and on the MCAT eventually. And that takes dedication, it takes focus. So at some point, you're probably going to have to take out loans. That's the unfortunate reality of this career as it stands. And so it might not be the worst idea for, let's say, instead of working the extra hours that will maybe make you 5 to 10K more, to take that out in loans and then know that it's an investment in yourself so that you can actually focus and really do well so that you can get into a medical school or a good medical school. And on the other side, when you are a attending physician, you will be able to pay back those loans if you're smart with your finances. Now, again, it's not financial advice, but I see this big mistake of students will take out some loans, but not enough where they feel like they don't have to work, and then they're working part-time, it hurts their grades, now they don't get into medical school, and they're still stuck with some loans, which is like the worst possible situation. So it is a calculated risk, but if you're all in on becoming a doctor, then sometimes you need that breathing room, whether it's from family help, whether it's from loans, whether if you can get scholarship, that's amazing, but it is hard to do, especially for a post-bac program specifically. And it might just be a sacrifice you have to make, knowing that long-term, you're gonna have a high income as a attending physician.
Ultimately, it came down to me wanting something more meaningful out of a job and out of a career. I wanted to make an impact on people's lives rather than just work hard to benefit some person at the top of a giant corporation. I wanted to use my skills, my knowledge, my brain to help others and to benefit society as a whole. That's what it ultimately came down to. And after many, many hours at night thinking, researching, browsing forums and all this stuff, I ultimately decided career medicine was right for me, and I decided to pursue it. On top of that, I wanted something that challenged me on a daily basis and afforded me the ability to think critically and think for myself and think on my toes and make split-second decisions, because all of these things make your neurons fire and keep you on your toes and keep you excited about going to work every day. Well, at least it keeps me excited about going to work every day. Also, I wanted something that was different every single day. My job, I see many different patients throughout every single day, and no two patients are the same. There's always a challenge. There's always a hurdle I have to overcome. There's always a part in the day when I have to use my brain and think, what else can I do to get through this procedure, or what's plan B, what's plan C? I always have to have these options and be challenged on a day-to-day basis. It keeps you on your toes, that's all I can really say, and that's what I've been looking for out of a job. And luckily, I found it in interventional radiology.
Yeah, there's a lot of amazing things about medicine. You really have to critically think, like Dr. Cellini mentioned. You get to do the most amazing work by helping patients improve their lives. And depending on the specialty, it could be in a variety of ways. You might be saving their lives, or if you're going into PM&R like I am, you're helping them get back to a higher level of functioning. If you're a interventional radiologist, you're probably doing some life-changing procedures. There's so many different facets of medicine, and that's what's so amazing about it. You're working with patients in their most vulnerable states, and there's really no thing that's more rewarding than that. But it's not for everyone. So again, you have to make sure you know the hard work that goes into this field. It is a lot of thinking and can be very stressful at times. So again, do your research before actually going into the field. But if you do, it's definitely worth it.
give a quick disclaimer because I'm not hating on anybody working in the corporate world, because many people have amazing jobs in the corporate world and are doing amazing things for our country. I just happen to be not one of them. I did not have a good corporate job, and for me, it wasn't the right fit. Many others, though, it is the right fit. So I just want to be clear on that. Some people like it, some people don't. Also, some people don't like blood. Some people do. Well, that sounds bad. I don't like blood, but it doesn't bother me. You get what I'm saying? Everybody likes something
If it does bother you, it doesn't mean you can't be a doctor too. Some people get over that fear very quickly. But, some people are squeamish, and then maybe surgery might not be for you.
different, and everything works out for different people. So I'm not hating on corporate America or anybody who works in corporate America. It's just not my cup of tea personally. So I told you at the beginning of this video, I'd give you kind of a weird comparison about my job. The point of that was to A, get you to watch till the end, and B, I'll tell you my favorite job that I liked that reminds me the most of being a doctor. And you're probably gonna think I'm crazy, but bartending is very similar to being a doctor. And hear me out here. Not because I'm prescribing alcohol or anything like that. I loved being a bartender, and I realized it was because I held all of the knowledge and I had the ability to help people and give them drinks. Because of all the knowledge in my head, I had this whole Rolodex of drinks that I could make and cocktails, and I knew how to do all this stuff, and I could make an awesome cocktail for them. And the best part about it was they came to me. I didn't have to go to some office to do so. They just came to my bar. I made a great cocktail with my knowledge, and it was pretty rewarding. It's not, this sounded a lot better in my head. It's kind of
That makes for that's an interesting take. And
the same thing in medicine, because as a doctor, you go to school, learn all these treatments and how to diagnose, treat disease processes and all that stuff, which is the same thing in bartending school, where you learn how to make drinks and learn all these cocktails and all this stuff. And then the patients come to you, you treat them, and it's rewarding. It's the same kind of vibe, just way different. But hopefully you guys can see the similarities in that and don't think I'm crazy. But I'll leave you with that weird comparison, because this officially concludes this video.
And that also concludes this reaction video. Thank you to Dr. Cellini for sharing his story, and I hope you're absolutely crushing it as a new interventional radiologist attending. And to everyone watching, if you enjoy these types of videos, please like and subscribe to the channel. We're going to be putting out more reaction videos, more content, and really trying to get to 10,000 subscribers in 2022. And would love for you to be a part of that journey with me. So thanks to everyone, and I'll see you in the next video.